So far, so good. We got some new guys, and then we have some guys venturing into some roles where we're asking them to, perform some new responsibilities. So that's going to be and feel more like scrambled eggs at this time. And, I've been here a while, so I know what it looks like and what it feels like around this time, and it's not necessarily pleasant during this time. You got to break down the bad habits, and they got to kind of detox what they've done for so long that's not the right way, and then you have to implement your system, and they have to grasp that. So we're working hard. We're trying to do the right thing, but eventually we're going to have to perfect it.
When you pulled the team together for the first time, every year the team is different. So what was your message to this year's team?
And disregard the sense of entitlement that you may have right now, because you haven't won anything collectively as a group. Don't try to enjoy the fruits of the labor that were performed by your predecessors, right? The reality is they're walking around this campus and they're getting a lot of attention that they probably don't necessarily deserve, because they wasn't a part of last year, nor the previous year, nor the previous year. And now they put on a sweatshirt that says North Carolina Central Basketball, and it's kind of familiar to everything. And the new girls on campus can't tell the difference, so they just already perceiving that you was a part of it, and you got to guard against that. And then when they hit the floor, I just let them know, look, you haven't done anything. We haven't done anything collectively as a group, so forget about the three-peats. We're not defending nothing. We're just trying to win and accomplish together as a team, this group.
You have used that expression before. I believe it was handing the keys to a car that's not yours. How long does that typically take to sit in for some of these newer guys?
I humble them real quick. Yeah, you come to one practice and they humbled. I can promise you that. They're not leaving there feeling like champions or anything. We break you down and then we build you back up. But it's the necessary evil. It's what we have to do. It's kind of like the prerequisite to venture into where you're trying to go. And these kids, bless them, man. But, in this day and age of social media and things of that nature, you can develop a false illusion about yourself. And, the last thing I want them to do is come back with a sense of entitlement. I just wanted our guys to know, there's a different component of training. I used the analogy of, I think it was Rocky III. After Rocky had, this was a guy who was struggling to get on his feet and just wanted a shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. And he was, running through the streets of Philadelphia and hitting ribs and pork rinds and all this type stuff in warehouses. And then when he won the title, he became content. And I just remember he was now trying to fight Clubber Lane, who was played by Mr. T. And they just kept going in and out of clips where Clubber Lane was training like in a dark basement and, just getting it in. And Rocky was like training with a jacket on now, a silk jacket with pianos playing and beautiful girls around him. And he'd jump rope and then stop and sign an autograph and give a kiss. And it was driving his manager, Mickey, crazy. And he went and got his head knocked off, and then he had to go back to reality. So I told him, let's not be Rocky Balboa in part 3. Let's continue to keep the same grind, the same mentality that we've always had.
When do you get a chance to, or do you take a chance every year to kind of sit back and reflect and enjoy the ride you guys just went on?
I don't. I heard Dean Smith, and I think Nick Saban said it recently. I watch a lot of those coaches shows, and the reality is you never get a chance to enjoy it, because I think we've been fortunate to win a championship on Saturday night. So you probably enjoy it for 24 hours, and then it's back to the selection show. So now you're preparing for your next opponent, and once you lose, you're disappointed in the loss. And then you only have a couple of days to be disappointed in that loss before you back on the road recruiting for next year's team. So you never really get those opportunities to enjoy it, and I have to do a better job of smelling the roses, while I'm here. So I promised myself I would do that. I felt in the past couple of years, but this year I'm going to take that into consideration and do it.
What has been the key for you to be able to keep this program with the level of success that you guys have been able to attain, especially with 3 straight championships? What's been the key in you building this program to that level?
Just sticking to our core values. We don't really talk about championships too much. And I think the secret of everything is there is no secret. We hold every person accountable every single day. And that's often difficult for a coach to do because he get tired. And so sometimes you can overlook things. But the reality is, regardless of our body of work, between the months of November and late February and early March, we're going to ultimately be judged by those 3-4 days in March. So we just try to grind, and we don't talk about championships. We just talk about winning every day. I'm a firm believer if you're not doing what you need to do in the classroom and in the weight room and in practice in November, then you don't stand a chance in March. So we just try to have a consistent pattern of behavior. So now when March comes, we're not inexperienced to the moment or we're not foreign to the moment. We just have a mindset of just doing what we do.
You humble the guys really quick the first day of practice. And I know you're a humble guy, but I'm sure everywhere you go in the summer, people are patting you on your back and reminding you of the success you just had. How do you kind of block it out and just kind of stay the course once the season turns around?
It doesn't matter. My wife asked me the other day, like, why is your trophy still in storage? I've had my trophies in storage from my childhood in storage for 6 years, and I'm paying a storage bill, which is stupid, by the way. I got to go clean out my storage. But I don't, it's hard for me to focus on the yesterday. And I'm so paranoid about failure that I'm always focused on what's presently in front of me in the future. I just think, life is not meant to be lived, whether it's positively or negatively, by looking back. A wise man once told me it's nothing that you do in life where you're looking over your shoulder, whether you're running or driving or whatever, because if you look over your shoulder and not in front of you, you're going to crash. And I just don't want to crash. So, I need to enjoy that and, kind of appreciate it a little more. But I've changed in terms of the management of time. I just think each year you have to get better as well. I think everyone needs professional development, and I've always been a big advocate for that, whether it's going to the Steelers camp and just seeing Mike Tomlin manage 93 football players. Like, that's a different set of mentalities. Basketball is a little different because basketball are prima donnas. When you're managing 93 football players and you got to cut it down to 53 over the course of a training camp, you find out what quality control is, and you learn how to manage personalities even more. I try to spend a lot of time with CEOs of specific businesses. I've learned a lot from a good friend, Ninth Wonder, who went to school here with me, has a record label. He has one of the top artists in the world, but also does heavy production for some of the most incredible artists in the world. Just going to his studio, watching him sample a record and then have his artist go in the booth and how he managed that artist, but he's still demanding perfection. It's all the same thing. So, I've tried to, pull and draw from other people that's close to me and just come back and apply it to our program, and it's worked out fine.
You mentioned everybody's held accountable, and I think a good example of that was last year. Jordan was all rookie, first thing as a freshman, and he didn't start. He didn't start that much.
Right.
His sophomore, it took him a while to become the starter.
Right.
How has he made a leap this year into coming into his third year? Have you seen a big jump from him and kind of a different mentality?
Yeah, he's obviously you will hope a kid matures and evolve, and he's been. It's funny that you mentioned his name because he's been so much better. I thought in the previous years you kind of become the product of the company that you keep, and when you're a freshman and you have some success, and then you come back as a sophomore, you have that sense of entitlement, and then if you surround yourself with the wrong people, not saying they were bad guys, they just weren't beneficial for him and his development. And now those guys are gone. So now he realized, and just like any kid, they realize that eventually they're going to try to rebel, and they're going to try you and just pout and try to get their way. That's what kids do. But again, once you're here, it's only going to be one way. So you're not going to win that battle. And I tell them constantly, but people continue to try. So either that bench will humble you or you humble yourself. So he sat over there a while, and he know I meant business by it because the hardest workers are going to play. I don't care if you're a walk-on or if you're a full scholarship guy. It's just in my DNA to reward the people that's working the hardest each day. And he's doing that now. So he's a completely different guy. He's transformed into the leader that we're trying to have him be.
How does Jordan and Ty, they kind of complement each other? Are they pretty much the same position, or you see them playing together?
No, we're going to play Ty more. Ty is a point guard. I mean, he's a shooting guard in a point guard body, but he really shoots to cover off the ball. So, I'm just going to tell him, just shoot the basketball. Just do what you do, shoot the basketball. I don't want him thinking about playmaking and all of those things. Our job is to put each guy in the best position possible according to their strengths and alignment to their strengths. And, a lot of times once you take shooters and scorers and you try to force them to be playmakers just because they're small or just because you envision them to be that way, you take away from the actual strength. So his strength is shooting the ball. So you'll see him take a lot of shots that you haven't seen people throughout the years take, and he has the immediate green light.
Jordan being a third-year point guard, which is rare in this conference, do you kind of are the reins completely off, or you still got to hold them back?
No. It ain't never completely off. Not as long as my family is the beneficiaries of their success or lack thereof. No, it ain't gonna completely be off. We're always gonna hold them accountable because a new level presents a new challenge. So now he's walking around and he's done something that not many people have done. He's won 2 championships in a row. He's been the starting point guard, and so my thing to him is, let's go try to get 4. Let's go try to get 4. But I have to guard against not the 2 hours that I spend with them. It's the society around. Like, it's these kids' circle that they allow to penetrate their circle and, just mess up their head and tell them that they're better than they not. And they commenting on their social medias and retweeting and, it's girls and AAU people and so on and so forth. So, anytime he goes astray, it's my job to reel him back in.
This has been an exclusive presentation of the NCCU Sports Network.